the one with earlier. Okay, so Rabbeinu Avigdor Atzafati was one of the Balatoisvus, and he writes, "Sof HaKadosh Baruch Hu shebeis hamikdash also dechorev v'am HaKadosh Baruch Hu kol zman shebeis hamikdash kayim b'atam makrivim korbanos leskaper alechem em beis hamikdash kayim b'mam eskaper v'saske b'toyre shemishulam b'korbanos." It's an interesting word. He says that you should say the Torah by the table, and it's as if you brought the korban of lechem upon the table is there. Yeah. Okay. Let's. There's a very important Sicha that the Rebbe spoke in Tov Shalom Ates about the importance of learning the Yonim of Beis HaBechira, and as Akdoma, the Rebbe said that we find a Davar Pella, that the only thing that in the Torah where it says the Yortzeit of a Tzaddik is in this week's Parsha, and B'derech Klal Matas Masa you read the Smichus either Mamish on Rosh Chodesh or Shabbos Mevorchim HaChodesh Av, and the Torah says B'Chodesh HaChamisha B'Echel LaChodesh was the P'tira of Aaron HaKohen. Why is it that Dafke, the Moshe Rabbeinu is not mentioned? The Gemara darshans it, we know it, and so the Rebbe says Tadvar Pella. First of all, we see that Minig Yisrael is the Minig Vosher, that the way we read the Torah is a mamish like the Shalom says that there's a Devorim in the Storim always that there's a shaykhah between the parsha what's happening. But this week you mamish see it. You read the parsha, it's Shabbos Mevorchim, and Wednesday is Rosh Chodesh. The Shabbos gives the bracha. Okay, what's the shaykhs? Three nekudas the Rebbe says. Number one, Aaron, you came just perfect timing. I'm starting to mention something a Sicha that you said Shabbos. The Yortzeit of Aaron is mentioned on this week's Parsha. 3 points. Number one is that it says that when the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Selukin Shel Tzaddik Koshel Lifnei Kadosh Baruch Hu Yosem B'Churban Beis HaMikdash. So we see a connection between the stalkers of a tzaddik and the zman of the Churban, even though, but it was already, Tisha B'Av was already a day that was muchen for being a Bechila Doiris. Another thing is, by the stalkers of a tzaddik, there's two opposite feelings. Number one, there is a chiyuv to be boicha masabel for the loss of a tzaddik. On the other hand, there is Chazal say Mahu B'Chaim, Mazara B'Chaim, Mahu B'Chaim. The Alter Rebbe wrote these beautiful 2 letters that is to get us a kodesh about the Chaim Tzaddik is not Chaim Besorim, Chaim Rufnim, Amuni Yirav. Mentioned last this Shabbos we spoke about a few stories about a Mandel Potafaz. But one of the things that he said, that Zappella said that he was in prison, that the Goyim were jealous of him. They said they had our back to become friendly with these Goyim. They said everything was stolen from us. Everything in life, all our pleasure in life was stolen. Talking about all these people, everything was stolen from us. There was such a loss of Tzelem Manushi. They would take people by night to kill them. So the people would never they would say with cynicism, okay, he's not going to be playing cards with us anymore. So they said, but you always saying they can't steal anything from you. It's something that can't be stolen. So Nemesis that the Alter Rebbe writes that that's Taka Chaim Atzadik Kemein Chaim Sorim Kemein Ruchnim Muna V'Yira. You can't steal that. That's always existing. So Mitzad Echad, when a tzaddik passes away, the Yortzeit of a tzaddik is a sad day. Mitzad Sheni, there's a certain koyach in that day. Same thing with the days of Avelus and Yerushalayim. Mitzad Echad, there's a Moshe Adin of Avelus. Mitzad Sheni, as we'll talk about in a minute, there's a chiyuv in these days to be mischazek in the Munah B'Yis HaMashiach, and in the mitzvahs of bringing korbanos, and in the mitzvah of building the Beis HaMikdash. A third nekuda is having a talmid shel Aaron. That in the days of the Beis HaMikdash, the problem was sinas chinam, and what's the remedy? Avas chinam. So there's a connection. There's a connection between the Tir of Aaron and the beginning of Chodesh Av. Okay. Let's read a little bit from before we get into the Sicha, just quickly read through some of the Hikadik and Nekudas that we're going to touch in the Sicha, and then Mitzvah Shem we'll get into the Sicha. Medrash Tanchuma Parshas Tzav Perek Yudalet. This is the most important for tonight. But obviously everything is important. That we know that the Eibush said the Beis Hamikdash will be a chorban. Don't forget to always be Mesadek Karbonis. If you're going to learn about the Karbonis, and Imal Alechem Kilu Karbonis at the Masukim, as if you're making the Karbonis. The Medrash says, come, I want to show you something. When the Eibush says to Yecheskel, the Tzud of the Beis Hamikdash, Ma'oimer Haged is Bnei Yisrael, as Habayis v'kolmo ma'avoynesayim amoded was tochnes. It's Yecheskel Perek Mem Gimel. There's a lot of Parakim Yecheskel that goes through the Beis Hamikdash, how to build the Beis Hamikdash. Oma Yecheskel lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ribono Shel Olam Ad Achshav Anu Nusunu B'Goyla B'Eretz Tzeinenu Ato Omer Li Leilech Le'Yedia L'Yisrael Tzuras Habayis Ksoi Voysa Le'Neiim V'Yishmuru Es Kol Tzurosev Es Kol Chukoisov. What are you bothering them? That's what Yecheskel said. The Eibush was talking to Yecheskel 70 years before they built the Beis Hamikdash. He said, what are you telling them not to build the Beis Hamikdash? Could they build? There's nothing to do. So let's wait. When the 70 years are up, then I'll go tell them how to build the Beis Hamikdash. Yeah. Kadosh Baruch Hu Yecheskel, u'bishvil shebonai nesunim bagoylo, hiye binyan beisi batul, because Yidden are Angolas, they shouldn't be building the Beis Hamikdash. Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Eibush said, Godol kriyotza b'Torah k'dinyana. Reading it in the Torah is as great as building it. Leich eimer lahem, go tell them, that they should go read the Tzura of the Beis Hamikdash the way it's in the Torah, and as a reward that they're learning about the Beis Hamikdash, I will consider it as if they're building the Beis Hamikdash.
Festivals after the first.
Yeah.
So they had another, but they had another.
They had another Beis Hamikdash, but he knew that they're going to be for 70 years in Golos. So he said, why talk now? We'll wait 70 years. 7 years is a long time.
Right.
So the Medrash says that Kilu, that's you have to go in the Psukim. That Kilu, there was a conversation between Yecheskel and Eibush. Yecheskel complained, why are you taunting them? You're telling them now, but it's not shaykh for another 7 years. The Eibush said no. Through learning about the Beis Hamikdash, it's Malan Yaleim Ki'ilu Hey Moiskim Binyan Abayis. The Rebbe says, the Rebbe's big chidush is like this: that in the Torah, when you say Ki'ilu, we never say things that are like, like just roundabout. Say Bediuk. It's not. The Torah never. Right. Torah says Bediuk. So it must be that when we're learning about the Beis Hamikdash, it's as if we're mamish building it. What's the pshat? The Rebbe says that we see that the Medrash compares it to the Karbonis. We can learn 3 pshat, and we're going to go through all the Medrashim, and we're going to see the Taka. There's 2-3 ways of learning it, and then maybe Taka. There's 2-3 mahalch. One way to learn it is it's a zeichel. It's a zeichel hamikdash. Another one is that it's a special schar, that it's a reward. And when a Yid reads the Parshas, it's brought in the poskim if a person chas v'sholom did a chet and he has to do tshuva, that he should open the chumash and read the psukim of the korban chatos, and then he should read the psukim of a korban oila. And if a person had to bring a korban tomid, that he should read those psukim. The highest way of learning it is that it's mamish taka like you brought the korban, and that's the way it sounds in the Medrash Tanchuma.
Like you build it or you bring a cover?
So before we even get into the Sicha, what's Taka the Pshat? You're saying it's as if you built it. What's Taka the Pshat? As if you built it. It's Taka the Pshat. So I think it's a double question. If once you get to that level to say that that's what Chazal means, think about we're building now Beis Menachem. So what are we doing now? Is anyone building? Any cement being poured? No. So we're not building. On the other hand, you say, could you take cement and start pouring it? You need to have a designer that will design it. You need to have an architect that will draw plans. Then you need engineers, right?
The we need money.
I'll call them you need money. So all that is askus in raising the funds, in getting a designer, in getting an architect, in getting an engineer, and all those achonis. There's a chelik in the binyan. You can't say that's not a chelik in the binyan. That's all a chelik in the binyan. So we'll talk about at the end of the Sicha. The Rambam says, and based on many Midrash Chazal, that we're building the Beis HaMikdash kipshuta. The Gashmi is, there's going to be cranes, there's going to be cement, we're building it kipshuta. So the day Mashiach will come, how are we building? What are we doing? What are we doing right now? So there have to be Talmidei Chachamim that learned. The more Talmidei Chachamim, the more discussion there is. There's two Chachamim talking about it, so he has his. The more, just like a sugya, like a yeshiva sugya, Lavakama, it's good durchetan, like you could, if you go, I know it's a chochma, you can find 25 articles on the thing, and every Rosh Yeshiva has a sheet on it. So today you have, not so much, but the yeshivas, there's a big deal about learning culture. Less there is about building the Beis HaMikdash, but there are yeshivas today.
One Yerushalayim, they have the cloth for the Kriyanim.
Yeah, and they have some of the Chachamim, and they have Koivtzim, and they're writing. One of the Taket about Mitzvah Bocher, so you should know that about Vigdor Nevenzahl, in the old city, just happens to be the name. He happens to be a big writer in all these. He has a big koch in he writes. No, not in Tzuras Habayis.
How?
Tzuras Habayis.
Okay.
Mikum Shalabeis Hamikdash, and this. He has a big koch in it. He's considered the Rav of the old city of Yerushalayim. Very choshev Talmid Chochem talking about. So what's going to happen? Mashiach is going to come. So it's going to have to be Yidden that learned the Tzuras Habayis, and they're gonna say this is here, this is here, this is here. So the learning is not the pshat that this is a separate inyan. This is a chelik of the building, and this is going to be the chiddush that everyone wants to say in the Sicha, that the building of the learning, when a Yid learns today, and that's why the Medrash says, "You've been by a bottle." When a Yid learns it today, it's not the pshat. It is zeichel. It's not the pshat. It's aschar kilu. The pshat is taket. This is a chelik of binyan Beis HaMikdash. Just like when you build a house, designing, architectural work, engineering work, hachonis is not a separate part. It's a chelik of the binyan. So you can't start building Beis HaMikdash. What are we doing? We're pouring cement. That's not the way you build a building. You plan it out. You design it. So Evamela, the learning it, is a chelik of the binyan Beis HaMikdash. That's meduyuk in the lashon. Leicha merla misasku, and animala kilu heim oiskim bebinyan that this kilu they're building it. Why is the lashon kilu? Say oisik they're building it. So they're able to answer that. Why it's kilu? So Shilas Fakir, why I say kilu? But we'll talk about that. But that's the big chiddush.
I don't believe that in all these places, not only here, but all the places in Chazal, also etched, also lie. It does not mean that literally that he did lie.
That's what you say.
That's what I said. But I'm saying, if you look into it, like it just doesn't make sense because let's say you think for a minute that someone who gets angry is in all my God is going to be accused of having already done.
On the other hand,
and here also, policy the mikdash tefillah b'nei Beis Mikdash. But also, when the Beis Mikdash is built, you can still have to bring the korbanot no matter how much you learned about them in the past.
Okay, it's a separate the mitzvah of building the Beis Hamikdash and bringing the korbanos are two separate mitzvahs. They're counted separately in the minyan mitzvahs. Okay, Medrash Rabbah, Vayikra, Perek Zayin, Halacha Gimel. Amar Bacha b'Shem Reb Chanina bar Papa, Shlo Yisrael Oimrim l'Shabara Yina Maklidin korbanos v'Saska Behem, Achshav Shem korbanos l'Mal v'Saska Behem. They say, what are we doing now? Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, Hoyel, V'atam V'Saskim Behem, Mala Nilech Gita Makrivim Oisim. Shmuel wants to say something more. Shmuel wanted to say something more. What did he say? That when you misasik in the halachas of building the Beis, as if you built it. I mean, today in Chadorim, that's not the way it happens. But apparently, Amalek site in the Minig Yisrael was to start with learning with children from Parshas Vayikra, not from Bereshis Bora. I've never heard today there should be episode. The Minig posture today is to start from Bereshis Bora Lekim. But it's interesting that this Maimah Chazal is brought in many places. Must have been that was Lepoel the Minig.
That's what had the Bana of the Golos.
Yeah. Something changed. We don't know why, but the Medrash says the Metzias was that in the days of the Medrash, when they used to start learning with children, they used to start in Vayikra. So let's read quickly a few of the Meforshim and the Medrash. So the Torah is Kohanim writes like this: Dorish Shkech. So what's the drash over here? Zois Torah sa'oila, pshat oiskim b'Torah. Ha'oila hi akravas ha'oila ba'atzma. There's a machlokes in the Rishonim. How do we learn it? The Gemara, the Medrash, from the word Zois, the word Torahs.
Putting it still before oil, so the Gomanis.
This is we'll learn about in a minute. Yeah, this is based. The Rishonim bring it from these Medrash. But to see the words of the Torah Kohanim, that it's very strong words. The Medrash is asking, maybe it's why should we spend time learning these things, karbonos, when we can't do it anyway? Maybe we should spend more time learning things that are nageya. Batam ki akrovas akorban he tachlis lachnias a chomer abaham is tachlis anemesh. Achem belimud atoyra yeshlo shachomer vizgaber aseichel umad because im seichel. It's another meforish. Then there's a meforish eitz Yosef. Haina deksiv zois toyras oila hi oila kolema hamesasek betoyras oila avaleka oisa oila mamish. Again, the lashon is very sharp here. And then there's another pirush that he says, chosin, words in the Medrash is missing, but tzarech li is, Yova ta'orim is aska b'ta'orim, shehevel piyim shal tenoikes ta'or b'lachet. Karbonas srichim laskam b'ta'orim, shalaim dem vayikra, shatoiris karbonas doime kilo krivim b'ta'orim. V'cheinu b'tanchumasham b'arichus b'biyu. So it's interesting, the way this pirush is saying it, saying, what's the hemshech in the Medrash, sign the Tanchuma, which I didn't quote, it's a long Tanchuma, sign the Medrash Rabbah. We're saying that in the schar of building the Beis Hamikdash, as if we built it, and then we're saying why the little children are learning Vayikra. The Medrash is trying to bring out that it's mamish like you're bringing the korban. It's mamish like you're building it. And when you build the Beis Hamikdash, you have to be Torah. You bring a korban, you have to be Torah. So therefore, that's the minig to learn that, which because children are Torah. Let's read the Gemara Menachos. The Gemara says, so but the problem with the pasuk, some of the Rishonim, the Rebbeinu Gershon says it's a whole extra pasuk. The pasuk we have to say it. Rashi says we learn it from HaTorah. Should say Zois So it's hachuka. All the Mefarshim say it's from the word zois, whatever. There was episode Yetura de Kro over here. Kolois, Batoira Kilo Yikrib Oila. Mincha Chatas Wash, Amarava Haila Oila, Mincha Oila, Mincha Oila. Elamarava, Kolois, Batoira, and it's Zorich Loila, Valai Chatas, Valai Mincha, Valai Yosh. Amr Yitzchak Maidik Siv, Zois Atoira. Zois Teres Achatas, Zois Teres Osh, Kolois, Batoris Chatas, Kilo Yikrib Chatas, Kolo Batoris Osh, Kilo Yosh. It's a lot of Mefarshim. What's the difference of three members? The Ben Yoda says a beautiful word. The Ben Yoda writes, "Nirli b'siyayte d'shmayit." Toshus l'shlokish l'kamer ki'ilu b'chaf hadimyan ein za'olam min chamamish. Like someone just said, it's ki'ilu. Avul rav esvira lei olam min chamamish. Lazemer ein etzorachet las olam mincha. The daila bezeh. V'noket oila tchila loyme b'ya oila d'kula kolel v'em b'hefsed l'koynim alafilu kramonas v'izbu. Hefsed l'koynim ein etzorach laviyoyt. This is what the Ben Yehuda says.
When Mashiach comes, we won't have to bring korbanos.
So he's saying, yeah, Kilu, if you were Machayev to bring a carbon, and you said the
Can I do one?
shine, look at that, that's what he's saying.
But more bring out somebody used to learn down. I need to.
Very good. We'll talk about this.
Who is this?
He didn't see the Ben
He
Yehuda.
didn't see the Ben Yehuda, but the Rebbe will be Miyashevit. The Rebbe is going to be Miyashevit with a Yishuv Nif.
So he's going to be this ultra that soup. The Mashiach says they have to do it. He's got to make some ultra.
Oh, no, not true. He's not okay the Pasuk. I'll talk about it in a second. Yeah, he has something to it. I'll talk about it in a second.
What else is it?
The Gemara says in Tainus, Amr Lafona Rebbeinu Shalom Tenech Bezman. Avraham Avinu said to the Eibishter, Tenech Bezman Shabeis Hamikdash Kayim, but Bezman Shabeis Hamikdash Kayim, Matei Aleim. What's going to be for the Jews? They can't bring a carbon. Amr like Far to counsel them said the Karmonas. Bezman Shakodim Ben Lafona. Mala and Aleim Kilu Kiv and Lafona and Emotional Mekolav and the same. They read the Karbonas, I forgive all their sins. Similar to that in Megillah. Yeah. Also. Yeah, Amr upon the Rebbeinu Shalom, Tenor Shabeis Hamikdash is Man Shabeis Hamikdash Kayim. Matei Aleim. Amr like by the counsel said the Karbonas. Kol Shkodim and Mala and Aleim Kilu Makrim upon the carbon. Emotional Mekolav and the same. The Rebbe says, if you look, a little shmek, a difference. The Medrash Tanchuma, the Medrash Rabbah, the Gemara Menachos, and many other Medrash Chazal. Just that the Shiur tonight is an hour, and that for 5. It sounds like they hold that it's mamish. It's mamish Indian of bringing a korban. Shenk in the Gemara Taina says, "Ani moichel akorban asayim." The kilu is not the kilu that they brought the korban. It's kilu the result. Look at the mechilus avoinas, and that's the kilu lefonai. Mala ni lefonai. To me, it's the same thing. The end result is you need mechilus avoinas, you get mechilus avoinas. But it's not as if you actually brought the korban. Shenk in the chidush of the Medrash Tanchuma, Medrash Rabbah, or maybe the second or third opinion in the Gemara and Menachos, is that kol ha'osik be'toides chatas ki'ilu hikrim chatas. Mamish, he brought a chatas. Not only did he get the results of a korban chatas.
I think we might keep on scope.
Oh, so then it says you have to a little bit. So let's talk in the Poiskim. The Alter Rebbe brings, let's read the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch Madara Kama, Madara Basra, and Hilchos Talmud Torah, and then a shtickle Prisha. Amr Kakom, Kol Oisik B'Teres Oila Ki Yikri of Oila, Kol Oisik B'Teres Chatas Ki Yikri of Chatas, and Tikya Toiv Lema B'Chol Yom Parshas Oila, Mincha Shalom and B'Toida B'Chatas, V'Hashem Bada V'Hashem Tola V'Korban Oila V'Yored Aina Parshas B'Shem HaKarlolo V'Shkol Korban Abom and Adova Ton Nesachel V'Fikach Acher Oila Shalom and B'Toida Yom Parshas Nesachel V'Chatas V'Hashem and Ton Nesachel. Im Yudeshin is Chayiv Chatas. Yom Etchila Parshas Chatas. V'Achar Parshas Oila. Nesha Chatas V'Chaperes L'Gamri Alo Yisayovin. Shibo Allah Ba'Oila, a doirin that comes after the Chatas. V'Shlachakdem HaKapara Koydem HaDoirin. Shekoydem Shitziratza Elamelech Lo Yikar Pela Doirin. Interesting. If your person Taka knows he sinned, and he has to bring a Korban Chatas. In the Beis HaMikdash, the way it was, you brought first the Chatas and then the Oila. Of the Gemara says, Oila is like a person that with the king, he wants to smooth. He already forgave, but he wants to make everything should be smooth. So first you have to do chatas, he should forgive. Then he wants to make everything smooth. Is the doid and she'acher. That if a person taka knows, if he doesn't know stamazai, so the oil is more chosher. So the oil should go first because the oil was mentioned first in the pasuk. And for whatever reason, why it's considered more choshev. But for whatever reason, the oil goes first when you read it down.
Oil is not just the Kohen.
Right, there's a mile and oil is kula Hashem, whatever. Oil is first. But if you know taki or kai or carbon, you have to do chatas first. Okay, continue. Parshas kabonos lo yom and elo bayom. B'shem akrivim carbon balayla. Parshas hakir, Parshas termas hadesh, kivish nasa balayla, yochel emer keding v'yayim. Tzarech lo Parshas kabonos me'umid. B'shem mizmer l'sod dugmos akra vason shiyim me'umid. So it's very two interesting halachas. That number one, that you're not supposed to say korbanos by night. So, say people that have to in the winter to go early to work, whatever, and they're davening mamish very early minyan, they should say the korbanos later, because the korbanos you can't say balayla. And the second halacha the Alter Rebbe says you have to say it after umid standing. Very interesting. The Alter Rebbe,
It's not right.
huh?
It's not right. But people are saying it's sitting.
You'll see in a second why. But do the basket out there, but schoize. Yes, I came to Leimer. Parshas, a korbanos shem oil of shlam and betoid bechat with washam bad washam tolu. The korban oil of the year, Parshas Sachem mishar kol benachas and kosma mamons lakayim mashkosam and shampons and senik and shamur chama and fosam and toil. Oil of mint kol chatz kolois beteris oil of kama commission leib lilma the lav and ein loimer after Parshas korbanos. El brokem vedayla bamiris perik ezem makomen kibodol talma in Beis the ideas of toil. It's interesting. The Alter Rebbe and the Badur Bast says it's better if you're going to just say the psukim, better even to learn the Mishnayos. Vim Yudeshin is Chai Beis HaKorban, Kmen Oila, Bikol Mitzasei, Al Hirur Alei Belotaseh, V'toy de la'arba tzirichim la'hoy, this Yom HaParsha Korban Miyachin is Chai Beis. Right away, shouldn't even wait for the morning. You on a trip and you have to say a goimel, right away open a chumash and say the psukim from Korban Toilet. A person was mahared a chet, right away you should open up a pasuk and say the korban oila. Or if you did a chet, you should do a chatas right away. Shema pasha karbonis yema v'yoyim shizma karbosim v'loy b'layla. Avalein tzarech lem me'umet k'ma yakoyin she'ovid me'umet b'ach shuein yakoyin ha'ovid sh'ukriyosam ala v'akosa kila yikir v'loy hakoyin. He's not the koyin.
What's one from the Kohen when he said the afterwards stand up?
Right. I don't know. Here it's saying with the other coin is doing it for him. The Toiv Loimer, the Shabbos Parshas Lechem upon. Okay. So but it's interesting, even though the Alter Rebbe was Chazaboy, and that's a sugik shalatzmai. Like the Rebbe is not talking about it, there's all kinds of slaughter you could say. The Alter Rebbe on the one hand it still holds that when you say the Parshas of Korbanos, you're not allowed to do it by Laila, do it only by Yom. But Lagabe, Ma'ubad and Miyusha, it's not like you're bringing the carbon. Bringing carbon being brought for you. So therefore, you could do it Miyusha both.
Mitzvah, Binya's best it's only the day or 24/7?
Only by day.
So when we learn it night, then
Yes. I hear what you're saying.
or market now,
I hear what you're saying. But if we should learn, like we said before, that this modudu atochnis, we're preparing the tochnis,
so of course
that you can do by night. The only thing that was the actual building was only allowed to be by yom, but the hachonis probably was allowed to be done by Laila, because if there were kodesh eitzem or where all these hachonis works, l'chayda were allowed to do it by night.
there wasn't many things that was done at night, basically. The Shmire, the Levin,
Right. The B'chal Avoda, the Beis Mikdash was not by night. But it's a separate issue. You asked the Shaila. What's mashma that the building was only by Yom. Because Gemara learns it from Sukkim and Nehemiah. Beginning, I think, Mesach Psachim. Hilchos Talmud Torah, the Alter Rebbe says, Perik Beis Halacha Yidalef, Yeshal ask B'tchil B'sei the Kotcher. Once a person knows the halachas he needs to do, first thing you should learn is say the kosher. Which Amar Chacham, Kol Oisik B'Teresei L'Kilu Kravoy L'Val. Ken Nocham Dovim Nefesh L'Ilmad Hilchos Kol HaKarbonos B'Shlemetz V'Kol HaVetz B'Mikdash. Hilchos HaMikdash V'Kol Keilot. Not only the avodah, but also the Hilchos HaMikdash. K'mevur Bayan Heitem B'Chibur HaRambam Zachroinei L'Broche B'Seder Avodah B'Seder Karbonos. ואחר כך, במשך הזמן, הם יוכלו להוסיף עוד בשעה זו ללמוד ולעשות קרוא יעסקו בספר תורה וזרעים. ואין קוידמן לסדר מועד נושם מנזיק כמחר שכבר עוסק הרבה בלימוד המבל די מייסר, שמלוך זה שנוס בגידול סדורים לילה. If he already did, he already knows how he needs to do. First, you need to know. You got to know what you know how to put on tefillin and how to daven. But once you mastered that, and the Alter Rebbe is saying, if you're asking what should be the first thing to learn? First thing you should learn is karbonos and avodah. Karbonos and avodah, building the Beis HaMikdash and avoiding the Beis HaMikdash. Okay, let's read in the Prisha. Prisha Sof Siman Nun. L'choyre nir li negam kam much. Lamid say the Mishnah says the Makam Galam Mok Korbanei. When tzarich lomar kach yirotz nanal Siman Aleph. Chabad Taka doesn't say the yirotz. Which is interesting. In a lot of nuschos there is a yirotz. After you say that right yirotz naleh kilu there's a yirotz. Nusach Ashkenaz says yirotzen. Sorry. And Nusach Sfar does have so So I have a feeling that the Yirotzen the Alter Rebbe took out once he already held in the Madura Basra that it wasn't, even though you should only say Bayoim, but you could say it Miyushiv. Okay. But he says that, but for sure, L'chol days by Mishnah, by Ezem Akerman, you don't say Yirotzen. Im loike lama evi rabenu kam tan shkov mishnah says makom ma'ach parsha tam mishum de'elu mishal shlish b'mikra shlish b'mishna v'lo nas tam k'mishkos leil b'sum ches akvis parshas atomid shemakom karbonis l'shma mano k'mash kasam. That's first shot. Yosin yir atomid shchoyves shman shleis mit shkain al kol yisrael akim kol yom boyke ve'erev az shechlem mashik b'parsha tam alam kol yisrael v'yom b'yom al shal choros v'sen makom karbonis atomid mishayk mishna says makom. So that's why it's less choshev. אמרת ממעל אני אלך כאילו מגישים לשמיד על דוב כמה פרשת תומד שקוראים כל מיני קורבנות שייך לא מקריבים לפני השם כבמשנה וקהל לאהוב. So essentially what he's saying is, his first shot that what's wrapping it up, is that l'daitoi, that when you're saying the chumash, the parshas HaKarbonos, that's mamish kilu hikriv. It's mamish kilu hikriv. And when you're saying the Mishnah it's a schus, but it's not mamish ki'ila hikriv. So if we should summarize, it seems from the Madrash Chazal that there's two ways of looking. One is the results of saying Parshas Atomit. The result of saying the Parshas is as if I got Mechilas Avonos, just as if I did a korban. The results are the same. Or we can learn, no, it's the Eibish's Malak, I brought the korban in the Beis HaMikdash, the Eibik and chicken said, Memela there is Mechilas Avonos. Memela is Mechilas Avonos. And there is another Ulam way. It's not only in that when it comes to building the Beis HaMikdash, it's not only, it sounds from the Medrash, it's not only in the Gavra, it's in the Chefza, it's Kilu, the Beis HaMikdash is being built. What's the nafkamina? Several nafkaminas. First of all, like we see, you have to stand. Are you allowed to say it by night? If you say that it's just getting mechilas avonos, so if I did a chet, I should read it. If I didn't do a chet, why should I read it? If you're saying that by reading it, I'm as if so I should read Parshas Oilo and everything. And that's why Taka the Alter Rebbe Hilchos Talmud Torah says that when you finish learning the basic halachos and you ask what should be a next step, Kotchem is a very important thing to learn. We learned this year that short maimer that Rebbe always that maimer. A lot of people ask that Rebbe tshuva for certain things that Rebbe tell them to learn this maimer by heart. It's a little magadarta pnei zok. We learned it this year. It's a very, very short maimer. Talks about the mile of learning choking the Torah b'zikaron. So that a lot of times different people ask for tshuva for different things. Rebbe said they should learn that maimer and they should have a chokuk. That maimer that talks about the importance of having divrei Torah chokuk with Moshe. Then the end of the Maimon is Befrat said the Kochim. So we see that there's two Mahalchim. The Tanchuma is of the opinion that the Ki'ilu is not Lagabe the Schar, Lagabe the results. It's Ki'ilu, he brought the korban, Mele as Mechila. And that's, once you say that, and then you understand why the Tanchuma brings also building the Beis HaMikdash. If you're saying you get Mechila Saboin, if that's Shaykh Lagabe Parshas HaOila, Parshas HaChatos.
I didn't do it, I don't have to do it.
Right. But when you're saying it's Ki'ilu Take, so just like by Kabbalah, it's Ki'ilu, I brought a Korban Oila, when I learn about how to build the Beis HaMikdash, it's as if I built a Beis HaMikdash. And furthermore, it sounds like it's not only in the Gavra, it sounds like it's in the Chefza, because David said, Iya Binya Beisi Bottle. Through learning, it's as if Binya Beisi is not bottle. As I said before, that's the Rebbe's lungs. Practically, how do you... So I think, in practical terms, if the Beis HaMikdash has to be built, we need to have an architect, we need a designer, we need engineers. Well, how are they going to know how to build? There has to be Talmidei Chachamim are going to tell them, well, think about the avodah of the Beis HaMikdash. Stam HaKohen HaMoritz is going to start doing the avodah. There's going to be Talmidei Chachamim, they're going to have to teach. Mitzvah Shem, there'll be Moshe Rabbeinu and the Kohen. Even the Chazal say that Tzis Mason going to be 4 years after Mashiach comes. 40. The Rebbe brings that there's mashma from certain Maimonic Chazal that some tzaddikim are going to get expedited treatment, expedited Tzis Mason. They're not going to wait 40 years. Which tzaddikim are going to get expedited? So the tzaddikim that we're going to need them, that they should tell us what to do. It's time in the big caller. Wrote a lot of culture. Who's going to pass him? Who's going to have to have voice? It's going to pass him. What's in the Beis HaMikdash? You're going to have to expedite Chis HaMesim to the Chofetz Chaim. Like the certain tzaddikim are going to have to. We're going to need them right away. So exactly. So come the building the Beis HaMikdash. Eden are going to have to figure out how to build. So Amela, that's a chelik of the mitzvah of the building. The Rebbe has a few nekudas over here that Rebbe wants to say. Number one is when the Rambam starts the sefer of the Beis HaBechira, that he brings a pasuk Shalu Shalom Yishalom Yishaloy Avoyach, which is this Chabad is saying this capital, the Rebbe's capital, dealing from this year. Why do you bring this pasuk? The Gemara says that how do we know that we have to make a zecher for the Beis HaMikdash? Because the Gemara says because it says in the pasuk, "Seeing he doirish ein lo," that like terrible that no one's remembering the Beis HaMikdash. The Gemara says from here we know that we have to make a zecher in the Beis HaMikdash. There's a lot of things that we do zecher in the Beis HaMikdash. Why didn't he bring that pasuk? Because the Rambam wanted to tell you when you're learning Hilchos the Beis HaBechira, it's not only a zecher for the Beis HaMikdash. Shalu Shalom Yerushalayim. You're being shoyel b'Shalom Yerushalayim. When we say Yerushalayim, Tosfos says, there's a Tosfos Yizvach Yerushalayim lo niskacha elo b'shvil haBeis HaMikdash. Ve'ech yitochen kedushas habayis this battle b'kedushas Yerushalayim time. A lot of times when we say Yerushalayim, we don't mean the city of Yerushalayim. Yeah, we're talking about the city, but the whole city of Yerushalayim was niskadosh in order to have the Beis HaMikdash. So Shalu Shalom Yerushalayim, when the Rambam saying he meant the Beis HaMikdash. It's more than just a zeich. Shalu Shalom Yerushalayim. Chazal say Ki'ilu. So the Rebbe has a few pshatim over here about what Ki'ilu means. First, that Ki'ilu means like this. You don't see it. When Mashiach will come, you'll see it. Another thing the Rebbe says, what does it mean Ki'ilu? The din is a ger, has mila l'tfila v'aritzos korban. So some boys can say that all the gerim that this man hazeh, Mashiach is going to come, they're going to get online to bring a korban. Are you going to say that a ger bisman hazeh, he's 66% Jewish? It's three things that you need to do. He did only two. He's 66% Jewish. No, chas v'shalom. He's 100% a Yid. Mashiach will come. Will be nischadish because Mashiach came. It's now mechuyev to bring a korban of his gate, so he cannot build a basement. Kenzayin, good child. But he's going to have to come with a korban. So now he's a ger gomer. Same thing here. When Mashiach is going to come, and we could actually pour cement and build, and a guy is sitting in his house and he's learning and he's not doing anything. It's being mevatel the mitzvah of HaMikdash. So klape that time, sitting and learning is only ki'ilu. But now, when that's the only thing you can do, so it's not klape when Mashiach is going to come and we're building. It's ki'ilu. But right now, that's as much as you can do. So that's what you need to do. Then the Rebbe went into a whole beautiful discussion about doing tshuva. Person does tshuva, Bisman Beis HaMikdash, he has to bring a korban chatus, and then maybe an oila. Otherwise, the tshuva is not tshuva shleimah. So the Rebbe had a few interesting questions. Gemara says that a person says to Isha, he's mekudeshes, and Manash say, Shani tzadi gomer. She's mekudeshes mesafik, because maybe he was mahar b'tshuva. He didn't bring a korban. Shema, we know that Bisman said the korban is not ma'akib. So then the Rebbe says, but
it's a good question. In the olden days, the ger was mal b'tzarbal. Was he a complete ger? Just that now he has to bring a korban anyway, or that he's not a complete ger?
Right.
Until he brings the korban.
Right. So it sounds like he wasn't. It was ma'akiv his gatus. Sounds like he was ma'akiv his gatus, and that's the chidush that the Rambam says Surah Beiri Perikei Daled Halacha Daled. That Bismana said that there is no Beis HaMikdash, it's not ma'akiv, but it's chiyuv on him to bring it.
And even today, all these functionaries say, if you even everything he left, things like that, the fact remains that not really being a huge ain't body.
Oh. So, l'chayrim, it's a good question. There is the Gemara says about Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel wrote on his pinkus, yeah,
well, that has nothing to do with whether or not the Beit HaMikdash is surrounding us.
Right, so it could be, but that's another question. The Parshas, when he meant Bona Beis HaMikdash, it was because it's not about the Tamlu and that? No. What I meant to say is, why are they not bringing korbanos? Because the Yad the Goyim
would allow it.
So that's what he meant. Because Shibana Beis HaMikdash. Yeah. That's what he meant. When there'll be a possibility, so he didn't mean to say necessarily the walls of the Beis HaMikdash. He meant when there'll be the possibility, so then he'll bring the korbanos. But in the Encyclopedia Talmudis, they brought a whole bunch of when they published the Erech of Chatas. They brought many opinions of Acharonim that said that every person needs to have a little booklet and keep a cheshbon how many korban chatas he has to bring.
Oh, the library book.
So the Rebbe said it's a pella. There is a klal and poiskin, even though loyde inu einu raya, but davar anofutz something I didn't see my Rebbe. You didn't notice. But if it's something that it's every day. And he didn't see, it is a raya. Loirinu is a raya. So we didn't see, the early Yisrael should keep a little booklet, and they should tell their Talmidim to keep. So what's the pshat with Rebbe Shmuel? The Rebbe has a beautiful pshat. The Rebbe says that we find in the Medrash that there was a time that the Romans decided that they will let the Jews build the Beis HaMikdash. And then the Kusim went and they convinced the Romans, the Goyim that were living in Israel, didn't want the Jews to have the Beis HaMikdash because then, whatever, they hated the Jews. So they convinced the Romans that they should not allow the Jews to build the Beis HaMikdash. The Romans didn't want to outright renege on their promise that they'll allow the Jews to build the Beis HaMikdash. So they sent a message that they could build it, but they have to make it different dimensions than it was in the previous. So obviously they couldn't build it anymore. So all of a sudden, Yidden were very upset because the Gemara says there was already that people were coming from the whole world, and they already collected they were all right, and all of a sudden this happened. The Chacham said that we're scared that there's going to be another revolt, and they didn't want Chas Shalom. There should be again, like it happened already several times against the Romans. There'll be a lot of bloodshed. So they asked one of the Chachamim if he could do something. So they found But who was the Chacham that was able to do something? Rabbi Shiur ben Chananya. Shiur ben Chananya got up on the stage and he said, brothers, I want to tell you a story. There was once a lion that got a bone stuck in his neck and he didn't know what to do. So he said, whoever's going to get the bone out of my neck, I'll reward him. Came a bird with a big beak. It's historic, a toucan. And a long, long beak, and went into the mouth of the lion, was able to pull out the bone. And now the lion lives. So the toucan came back and said to the lion, give me my reward. The lion wasn't interested. So the lion said, go, and you have now bragging rights. Go to the whole world and brag. Tell the whole world you were in the mouth of a lion. You were in the mouth of the lion, and you came out alive. So this was a mashal. Yeshua Mechananya said to the Eden that this nation are big rishoyim. They're like a lion, and they're vicious. And the people, remember there was a couple of years ago, there was a guy in Michigan in Las Vegas. He thought that he had a whole bunch of lions and tigers. They were his best friend. And then on stage, every night he had a show. Vahi Ayoim, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Vahi Ayoim, they ripped him up.
Yeah.
Like on that.
Until one of them got mauled.
What does that?
Yeah.
So that we see that you can't play games here. So he said that we are Zoicha Baruch Hashem, that these are Sinai Yisrael, and we're Zoicha to live, that we should be happy with what we have, and the Eibishter will help, and that's it. And that mashal calmed everyone down, and everyone went back home, and that avoided a tremendous amount of bloodshed. The Gemara says, so it's a Chazal, it's a Medish, and then the Parshas told us, and the Bereshis Rabbah. So the Medish, so we see from this Medish, that there was a time in history that the Yidden had permission to build the Beis HaMikdash, and the Yidden already had plans. The Medrash says that they were traveling for the whole world, and they brought gold and silver, and there were two brothers that they provided everyone with sandwiches and water on the roads. So there was a Zman, but it didn't happen overnight that they said, build, don't build. It was a tkufa, maybe it went a few chadoshim, or maybe it was a year. There was a tkufa aruka that people came from all over the world and they brought gold and silver, and there was these two brothers that fixed the roads and gave people food and gave people drink. And that tkufa was the story of Rabbi Shmuel. So Yois, there was rishus to build. So there wasn't yad omnas takifim. It was shayach. It was only a shayla. Okay, we're just going to go. We're going to make. We're going to build. We're putting the mizbeach today, tomorrow. It wasn't a shayla. Only of time, was but a shayla of time. So it could be that's the time when Rabbi Shmuel was the story, and that's when Rabbi Shmuel wrote, because just like B'Shaz, the Beis HaMikdash, the end is built, or so a person will quick to bring a korban. So when Yad Yisrael Tkifa, and they could build a Beis HaMikdash, Shalaitzach, that it's same chiyuv. So go build it and bring the korbanos. So at that time he wrote, because therefore it's not a raya. This is not a raya, slam dunk raya from the Gemara, that now if I was over, that I have to keep a little booklet. It's funny, can you imagine, according to those poskim, they thought that you need to keep a little booklet in your house and you keep on writing. Every one of us will all of a sudden would have to buy a few truckloads of cows. We'd have to buy a few truckloads of korbanos. So the Rebbe says, no, it's mistabed that it's not that way. But this answers the shayla someone asked at the beginning. The Ben Yehoyada says that it's mashcha to him that according to the second opinion or the third opinion in Gemara Menachos, that the chidush is that if just by saying the parsha korbanos already doesn't have to bring the korban. Someone asked, well, should ask us. How could the Ben Yehoyada say something? It's off the wall. What do you mean? Oh, no, this man based on mikdash, a person's going to say it's much cheaper. I'm just going to read up like a tzaddik from all the parsha korbanos, and I thought that for bringing korbanos. So could be but the Gemara is talking about Zman Nachurban. The Gemara is talking about Zman Nachurban, saying that when a person Taka reads the Parshas or Karbonas is so Taka, but not Zman Beis Hamikdash, or not as soon as Mashiach comes, it's not going to be enough to read Parshas or Karbonas. If Mashiach comes, you got to bring your garment. The Beis Hamikdash is not built. Pull out your little booklets and start writing notes. If you have a shaila, this is shaila, call your local Orthodox rabbi, find out if you have to put down Shiur Beis Hamikdash Ovichat Shmeina. The Gemara is talking about such a churban. Shas a churban, it's just reading. Just reading is already good enough.
And the question is, what are you missing by not having uploaded the program?
What a person's missing?
If saying it is mechaper, so what are you missing by not bringing the program?
Not missing anything, but it has to be Bisman Achurban, Bisman that it's not shaykh to bring a korban. Parshas, that's when Chazal says Koloise.
When the time when the mikdash was built, or when you have permission to go up on HaBechira to do it.
So it's not going to help to write to say Parshas Karbonos. Then he has to bring the korban.
For what purpose? To get what? To get kapara?
The kapara, yeah. Otherwise, it doesn't have the kapara. Yeah, Parshas. So the Rebbe says this brings us to there's a Toises Yom Tov that in the beginning of Seches Midas. Toises Yom Tov brings that the Rambam says that who needs to learn Seches Midas? He says the reason is because we have to know how to build a Beis Hamikdash. The Toises Yom Tov asks, how could the Rambam say that we have to learn Maseches Midas in order to know how to build a Beis Hamikdash? The Rambam himself writes in the Hilchos Beis HaBechira, when they came to build the second Beis Hamikdash, they were confused because the Sefer Malachim is very clear how to build a Beis Hamikdash, but that was Beis Hamikdash Rishon. Yecheskel wrote from the Eibishter things for the next Beis Hamikdash, and there were supposed to be revisions. And they didn't understand everything in Sefer Yecheskel. So whenever they had a question about what to do, they went back to Sefer Malachim. So therefore they built the second Beis Hamikdash, Anse by Shenik Shamonis by Beis Ezra Baruch, Kibinyan Shloima, Umein Devorim HaMufarash in Yecheskel. Is them nicht gewusst, what should we do? So then whatever they didn't know, they went back to Sefer Malachim. Presumably in the third Beis Hamikdash, we're not going to be building that one. We're going to be building. So what do you have to learn Maseches Midas for? So he says maybe chetzi, but he leaves it like a little open. So the Rebbe says like this. We find that the Gemara says in different places conflicting messages about who builds the Beis Hamikdash. And Taka we have a machloikas. Rashi says, Tosfos says, the Zohar says that when the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi comes, it comes flying down from the sky. The Rambam holds no, that has to be that we have to build it. So which one is it? So the Rebbe brings 4 tirutzim for this. 4 beautiful tirutzim. 4 tirutzim on this. One teretz the Rebbe brings that Meken Zog Nazoi. The Gemara says that there's a it's a machloik, it's a miyashem, Eila ve'Eila diva l'kem the Taka, the Mamor Chazal, it's a big poiskim, talking Rashi and Tosfos, and it's the Rambam, it has to happen in one hand. There's no two Beltei Mishra. So how are we going to be miyashem? So one pshat that ever said 4 pshat to be miyashem. One pshat is the Gemara says that it's astira. Is coming down with the clouds. The other one says, Oni Berachah is coming down Avenue J and a donkey. So which one is it? The Gemara says, depends. Zochu loy zochu. Zochu iman anishmai. Loy zochu oni berachah v'chamoy. Depends if we're zochu and it happens in a spectacular way. Otherwise, it's coming down Avenue J and a donkey. So the Rebbe says that maybe the same thing here. You could say that this is, Rambam is haloch. Can't say zochu. How could you write in zochu? Then the Yidden have no b'chira chavshis. It's already hard enough to understand how the Eibishter knows before we do it, and then we have Bechira and Yediyah. If it's down in a Sefer, Halacha, what do you mean? I can't be that way. The Rambam has to write the bare minimum, Loi Zoch. But the Rashi is not a poisek here, he's writing a Pirush. In the Chumash, Mikdash Adna Koni Yedecha, in the Chumash he writes the way it's in the Zohar, and it's the same thing. the way it's going to be zoch. Second pshat that Rebbe says, you could answer that it says in the Eicha Tova B'Oretz She'oreh that the whatever they destroyed, but the gates they were never able to destroy. The gates went sliding into the ground. And the Gemara says that a person's maimed losses is koines kol habayis, kilo bonus kol habayis. So Mashiach will come, Ken Zayin, that the Beis HaMikdash is going to come flying down from the sky. And the Sharim are going to go popping up from under the ground. And all we're going to have to do is be maimed the losses. So the one hand that came down from the sky, on the other hand, if you maimed the losses, kilo bonus kol habayis. Third teretz that Rebbe gives is that the emissaries, you could say that just like it says about the Eish and the Mizbeach, that there was a mitzvah lahavim and a hedget, that we brought our own fire and own wood. And on the other hand, there was an Eish that came in a Shemayim that was a miracle. In the first Beis HaMikdash, it looked like a lion, second like a dog. So the same thing here. Could be that we're going to build, but the Kedusha, Beis HaMikdash or Shlish is going to come into the building that we're going to build, and both are true. Fourth teretz that Rebbe gives is that the emissaries, you could say like this: we're going to start building. We're going to start building. Mashiach comes that day, we start building. What are we doing? Whatever we know clearly how to build, that we build. It's going to come some shyless, nevesnet wasaton. Just because you don't know what to do doesn't mean you shouldn't start pouring foundation and start building. There's no shayla that Moshe and Yecheskel, someone's going to come down, like we mentioned before, expedited Tchias HaMesim. Someone's going to have to come, Yecheskel himself, or Moshe Rabbeinu himself, and tell us the rest. That's going to be Min HaShamayim, because we didn't know how to do it. So part of it is going to be what we're building. And for that part, it's very important to learn Maseches Midas and Maseches Talmud, and to learn the Rambam, Hilchos Beis HaBechira, and that the more Yidden that learn it, the more there is that people are dealing about it, and they're like as I mentioned before, if you look, that today there are certain koilulim in Eretz Yisrael that have a koch in learning Hilchos Beis HaBechira. Not only the kochen and the korbanos, mizvachim and office, but also about and there are groise that the groise Talmidei Chacham today that are writing articles about it and the koch about it, and they have not everyone agrees on everything. Versteht? So there's plenty of disagreements. Kedar Gishul Torah. So that's all a chilek of what we have to do. And then when we do our part, but there'll be things that we don't know what to do. So for that, the Eibishter will. So there is part that we have to do, and that's talking like the Rambam. But there's a part that the Eibishter has to do, and that's going to come down in Hashemayim. So these are four tirutzim. Again, four tirutzim that Rebbe gives us. One is that it depends on zochu loy zochu. The second is depends on the Beis HaMikdash, the losses. The third teretz is that Eishmin Hashmayim, Eishmin Ha'edyet, that we're going to build it, but the Kedusha is coming down. And the fourth teretz is that we're going to build the part so we know how to build. And the Rebbe will help us, whatever we don't know, we have to do our part. We have to do our part. We have to do our part. We have to build the base of Menachem Mendel, we have to do our part. The Eibishter will do his part. The rest is not. The Shalom's a daig. So the Rebbe Shalom is daig. So Beis HaMikdash, we have to learn as much as we could, and we have to build and plan as much as we could, and the Rebbe Shalom will do the rest. So that's the pshat. That's the taket of pshat that Godel Kriyasa Kebinyana. Godel Kriyasa B'Torah Kebinyana. Malan Yaleichem Kiloim Oiskim B'Binyan Abayis. That's not only a Zecher LaMikdash, it's not only Kilu, they get the Psaschar, but it's mamish a chelik of the mitzvah of also the mikdash v'shachanti b'toichem, one of the 630 mitzvahs, which I got work. This mitzvah is not only men, also women have a chelik in this mitzvah. So Mamela, so women can also learn. Women can also learn the Rambam's lashon. That's not grama. No, but they're not machuyev, but they can do it. There's a lashon. Many things the Rambam says. They're allowed to. Everybody has a mitzvah to do it. Everybody. So where's the lashon?
מבטלים, למשל, או בעצם,
Perek Aleph Halacha Yud Beis Hak. No, it's mashma with the Chayiv actually. It's to look in the Rambam way. In the Perek Aleph Halacha Yud Beis Hak Chayovim Libnus. Ula side, Be'atzmam, Ubemamoinim, Anoshim, Vinoshim. Anoshim, Vinoshim.
even shit, and it seems מבטלים, לא משנה, סבונה,
Ein Mevatel. Okay. I don't know. I have to look. Take a look. It's like a pellet. No, it's not a mitzvah. It's a chiyuv.
Women do certain halachot that are shut up to women, like,
No, but why would they be chayiv if it's a time sensitive mitzvah? The mitzvah is only by day. Could be the mitzvah is not. It's a
try it closely. Try it closely, not a mitzvah.
right. Could be also. It's a technical thing of what you can do by day. Could be by night you're allowed to do certain things.
we're learning, and we see that's part of it, so it's not as long as anyone.
Right. That's exactly what I wanted to say. Exactly. Remind. It's a good shiloh.
The way we learn at night, it's perfect. It's not as long as
Right.
I know that the mikdash of the Kestel is talking about the mikdash of Acharit Yamin. So as long as we have an Acharit Yamin, so we have
it's
to
not bad.
Yeah.
What's real?
Because when you read it, that part from the Kestel is not only the mikdash, but the whole surah of Eretz Israel and the world in general, it doesn't jive to the realities that we have today.
Okay.
But like it has there, the whole map of Eretz Israel and the whole map of the world in general, even it just
Right.
in Yerushalayim.
So it has to be. I mean, it must be that it's basically because the Koel Mamish, Ochel Yoshev Reikim. It's not Shaykh. The Eibish's words were for vain. If the Koel, the second Beis Hamikdash, wasn't built the way it's written in Yecheskel, it must be that Yecheskel is for Beis Hamikdash Ashlishi.
Right. That's so the one that they built in the time of the Ezra. It's not the Ezra is the second one. But let's see if they decide today in Eretz Israel to build another Beit Mikdash like the one in Ezra. That's not the Beit Mikdash of Acharit Yamin. That's so we want to call it for the fourth or the third or whatever.
Yeah, Let's Hashem. We're gonna.
What's
Like it's not like in time of God Kofka, they were considering the building Mikdash.
We just spoke about the time of Rabbi Shiur ben Chananya that they were considering, and the Medrash makes a big deal out of it. That as if people came,
but they didn't even think of doing it going to the Tesco.
right. So it has to be.
17 years, what she told me now.
So the Eivish Telfon that in the schus that we learned tonight, and in Mitzvah this week and next week, we're going to spend some time learning in the Beis the Hilchos Beis HaBechira, that kilu and taka. We should see that it's not only kilu, that we should be see kipshita begashmius, that Mashiach Tzidkenu is going to come, and we're all going to get involved in building the third Beis Hamikdash.
By the way, and a bunch of those cookies over there were first I saw it. Well, Melissa simply not able to make it. He called and said, even though I can't come, I want to make sure that it's cookies not the mental blood. I can love it.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully it's soon that we get much. And for a while,
Yichayim l'chaim for Sasson, Yishav Refuah Shleima.
Amen. Ich kann